Hey storytellers, this is Joshua Edjida, and this is What is Your Storytelling Style? This video is focused on storytelling style 3, which is in the Enneagram system, which this comes from, is known as the achiever or the performer. And the main reason I'm starting with this video is because this is my storytelling style. So I'm going to talk for a moment about what is a storytelling style. I'll mention what is the Enneagram system, and then I'll dive into this specific style. So your storytelling style is essentially what is the reason you tell stories. And that has multiple layers, because there are the stories that we consciously tell, and then there are the stories that we unconsciously tell. So when we're unconsciously telling stories, that basically equates to how are we lying to ourselves? How are we making a meaning about something in order to avoid some kind of painful truth, some kind of issue that we don't want to see about ourselves? How do we design stories internally in our minds, in our bodies? How do we design stories so that we can keep our head in the sand? So that we can avoid the shock of seeing who we actually are. So for example, a story someone could tell themselves is, maybe they get fired from their job. They could say to themselves, well, I didn't like them anyway. And then they're avoiding why they actually got fired from the job. Maybe they were slacking off. Maybe they were not transparent about their issues. Maybe they were, irresponsible in some way, and they're not owning, right? Ownership is a big part of what keeps an aspect of ourselves in the shadows. They were not owning the actual issue, and they manufactured internally a story that had an element of fantasy in it. And the reason I bring up fantasy specifically is because in the storytelling style 3, there is a polarity between skill and fantasy. And so every story coming from the type 3 is going to include this tension between skill and fantasy. And so my job is to help make that tension obvious and conscious, because if we don't know that's the tension inside of our type 3, then we are unconscious about that being one of the driving motives of our storytelling, and then it's lost on us. Then we can't actually get the magic and the emotional juice of that story. So this is derived from the Enneagram system. You may know in the Enneagram system there are 9 different personality types. What that means is there are 9 different ego fixations. And you are not your personality type. So, my personality type is a type 3. What that reveals to me is how I can get lost in the polarity, the tension of the personality, of the type 3 personality, and it disallows me from actually being aware of my soul and actually speaking and storytelling from a place of spirit and a place of neutrality, right? Because when we're speaking or living or thinking or experiencing or identifying as our personality, as the body, as the mind. The body-mind system is the personality. We are inherently limited in a finite experience. But if we're able to step out of that tension and then tell a story that assists our personality in relaxing and unclenching, ungrasping from whatever it is that scares us, we're able to be more accurate and transmit more wisdom through the story that we're trying to tell. So that's a basic understanding of what is a storytelling style. So now I'm going to get into what is the type 3 specifically. I already told you it's the tension between skill and fantasy, but I'm going to get a little deeper into it because there are some specific traits of the type 3 personality that you want to be aware of. Especially, you want to be aware of how these traits show up as tendencies and temptations in your storytelling, because what you don't want is to tell a story from a place of the small I, the personality. You want to tell your story from the place of the big I, the soul and spirit, right? So I'm going to give you some of these clues about what the type 3 small I personality believes, so that you aren't fooled and so that you are not telling that story, because there's only 9 personality types. There's only 9 storytelling styles. So if you're telling a story which is from the identity of one of 9, it's not going to be very unique. It's not going to land that, it's not going to make the impact that it really can if you were to tell the story from the perspective of your unique soul, your unique spirit blueprint, right? So, because your uniqueness truly is a one of a kind. But if you're telling a story from one of 9, it's going to just be lumped in with a category. And that's what we don't want. We want to, in our storytelling, in our filmmaking especially, we want to, because I'm a filmmaker, we want to tell these stories from a place of true sovereignty and not dependency on the personality. I know it's kind of ambiguous stuff, so I'm going to give you some really clear clues here about what that personality of the type 3 looks like, okay? So first I'm going to start with what the type 3, I have a few books here to reference, so I'll show you the books that I have. This first one I'm going to reference is called Facets of Unity, the Enneagram of Holy Ideas by A.H. Almas. So this is basically, this book is about what does it look like for type 3 to gain enlightenment, to gain self-realization? What is the ultimate of the type 3? So what it calls it here, for point 3, it says holy harmony, holy law, and holy hope. And I'll just read the introduction here, or the first paragraph. The awareness that there are no exceptions to the natural laws which govern the cosmos, and that these laws are completely objective, operating as an interconnected unity. The highest law is the totality of reality itself. Certitude in the objectivity and total applicability of those laws is true hope. So basically what that's saying is that, another thing that it doesn't say there is that the type 3 ultimate gift, one of the ultimate gifts, is efficiency. And when we are able to get in touch with the laws that govern efficiency, then we're able to actually have a hope for moving forward. And it's not like a egoic hope of the small I, it's more like faith. So holy hope, the idea is more like a holy faith. And that is something that the type 3 is moving toward. Okay, so I wanted to just give you that foundation before I get into some of the fixation stuff of the lower self of the type 3. So I like this. This is a checklist from 9 Lenses on the World by Jerome Wagner. Okay, so checklist for type 3. Failure would ruin my image. People see me as a productive person, right? Type 3 is all about image. It's an image type. I am usually at the center of the action and am up to date on popular trends. I am an executive type. I enjoy making decisions and am good at it. I enjoy or would enjoy organizing and managing a new business or enterprise. I see myself as upwardly mobile. My accomplishments make me who I am. That's the big one for type 3. It's called the achiever because they really believe my accomplishments make me who I am. I had to do a lot of work to be able to get out of that. Right now I'm just accomplishing this video because it feels exciting, it feels fun, but it's not about the end result. It's because I wanted to make the video. I am adaptable. As long as the project gets done, I am willing to make a deal. I like to be seen as well organized and efficient. I program myself to succeed instead of just being myself. I act confident so that other people will believe in me. I tend to have a lot of projects going at once because I like to be seen as an active, successful person. I can and do assume whatever image will make me successful. I have a lot of type A behavior. I'm driven and stressed and need to work and perform. I can be almost machine-like in my efficiency. I know how to project the right image at the right time. I seem to succeed more than most people. I am a good salesperson because I know how to get people to like me. I would make a good politician. I understand the importance of compromise in public relations. I believe appearances are more important than most people think. All right, so obviously not all of these are true for every type 3. We kind of have our own way of expressing it. But one thing I wanted to pick out, I seem to succeed more than most people. For me, this is a really interesting one because if you ask a lot of people in my life, probably they would agree with that because like they would see me as like, oh, I can do anything. But if you ask me, you know, and if you ask my image, my personality, I'd say that I fail more than most people because I'm always trying something. I'm always getting like into areas that are beyond my realm of expertise. So in my personal experience, it feels like I fail more than most people. But in other people's experience, they probably would see me as succeeding and being good at a lot of things. And so that differentiation between what other people see and what I see reveals to me the image that I'm clinging to that is my self-image, right? And so if I'm not aware of that self-image when I'm making a film, telling a story, then I am going to be operating as if that is me, as if that is real, right? So I want you to be able, if you're a type 3, I want you to be able to be aware of that tendency so that you're not telling a story for your self-image or from your self-image, right? So that you're really tapping into your big self, the unlimited aspect of you, so that you're able to maybe even poke fun at your self-image in the process, and that makes for a truly fabulous storytelling, something that can really move people for decades to come, rather than something that's so contracted and self-absorbed, and it's about you looking good. It's like, if we're making a story or film to achieve a different self-image because we just want that achievement, that's coming from the wrong place, right? So if we're coming from the story just wants to be alive, and the story wants to come through me, and it's not mine, it's just, this divine experience, that's true storytelling. Okay? All right, so I'm going to pick up one more book here. This is The Enneagram Guide to Waking Up by Beatrice Chestnut and, I don't know if I'm saying the name here, Aurelio Paes. And there's a little bit of a checklist here too I'm going to read for you as well. You may be a type 3 if you excel at reading a room, automatically tuning into the people around you to know what they value so you can tailor how you present yourself to impress them. You like setting goals and then doing whatever it takes to accomplish them. When you define the result you want, you easily map a path to get there. You want people to see you as competent and successful. You feel confident about your public persona because you do whatever it takes to work hard and deliver. And something you might notice, if you're a type 3, or if you have some of the qualities of type 3, we have like mask types and then a core type. You might hear some of these and think to yourself, how could there be another option? Of course I do that. Is there even another way? Like, what else would I do besides, setting goals and doing whatever it takes to accomplish them, right? So there is another way, and I'm going to tell you what that is. One of my favorite little books, The Essential Enneagram, The Definitive Personality Test and Self-Discovery Guide by David Daniels and Virginia Price. There's actually a little test at the beginning of this book. If you haven't taken a test, I'm going to put a link at the bottom of this video so that you can, in the YouTube description, or however I put this video up. Yeah, YouTube. So take the test and use your results of the test as a hypothesis. Sometimes we don't test correctly. You have to experiment and watch some more Enneagram videos and make sure that's your type. But I'm going to read you something here which I find fascinating, especially for the type 3. You'll see what I mean. The ultimate goal of my development: to realize that love comes from who we are, not from what we do. That everything that needs to be done gets done according to natural laws and does not depend on our individual effort. Isn't that fascinating? I can imagine type 3 hearing that and like, does not depend on our individual effort. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? Right? That must be this like, what's next? Like, how could I do it? So I'm going to put the book down now. I work in the story weaving strategy, and now there's the story weaving course, the story weaving book. I work with the Toltec knowledge, the ancient body of knowledge, which I believe is the original knowledge of humanity. And in that perspective, there is the tonal, which is the body-mind system, and there's the nawal, which is the soul, which has the spirit, right? These are the infinite aspects. So there's the finite, is the tonal, and then there's the infinite, which is the nawal. In the tonal, everything depends on you. Everything depends on your personality and what you know, and how smart you are and who you know, and it's all very practical, which is fine. And from the nawal, this is where wisdom comes from, right? The tonal doesn't have any access to wisdom. The tonal, being only practical, only understands, what's right in front of you. The wisdom comes from the nawal, and then if you're able to tap into the nawal, there's this infinite well of wisdom. Somebody asks you a question, you answer from the nawal, you might be learning as you're answering, because it's coming from this infinite well, right? So from the perspective of the Nawal, it's silly for everything to depend on your individual effort. I'm going to say that again. From the perspective of the Nawal, your spirit and soul, your infinite self, it's silly for everything to depend on your individual effort. The individual effort comes from the tonal, right? So there's the what's often called like effort, individual effort, or willpower. But then there's the true will, or what I call the holy will, which is the will of the Nawal, the will of the soul. And this is effortless, right? The tonal, the body mind, has to push. When you're operating from the Nawal, you are being pulled, right? It's not the same kind of effort. It's known as the choiceless choice, or the effortless effort. And being pulled in that way is true efficiency, and tapping into the laws that are operating here is actual efficiency. So your task, if you're storytelling style number 3, your task is to be able to be pulled instead of pushing on everything. Okay? So that's the end of this video on the type 3. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to ask questions. If you sign up for the True Participation Courses website, you can find some of the various courses and introductory materials to the story weaving course. There's a story weaving book, which I highly recommend. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you in the next video. This is Joshua, and have a good one. Take care. Thanks.